Welcome back to Money 2020 and the US Bank Lounge here in Las Vegas. This is the next in a series of the future of finance. And today we are talking about the tokenized future of banking. We've got a nice panel with us today. First off, from US Bank, Mike Villano. He's Senior Vice President of Enterprise Innovation with US Bank. We also have Jose Fernandez da Ponte. I rolled the R.
You did.
Just for you. President and Chief Growth Officer for Stellar Development Foundation. Last but not least, Kurt Fields. He's a director and the blockchain lead for PwC. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Let's jump into this because if there's one thing I learned when I arrived on Sunday, I went to a summit and it was immediately about stablecoin, and I'm just seeing that all over the place. So this is almost as relevant as we could get with the embedded payments here in Las Vegas. Mike, why are we talking about stablecoin at all?
You know, Steve, you set the context for that very well, that everybody here is talking about stablecoins. And there's a combination of factors for that. There is legislation with the Genius Bill that was passed back in July that provides a framework for banks to issue stablecoins. There's multiple stablecoin issuers who are applying for bank charters. We also have in quarterly banking calls questions coming out about stablecoins, including US Bank's quarterly banking call, a quarterly earnings call, where we had questions come in about stablecoins. And you may have heard our CEO, Gunjan Kedia, talk a little bit about the work. And some of the work she mentioned is we're doing pilots for stablecoins and we're building. And what we plan to talk about today is the exciting work we have when it comes to issuing stablecoins that we're partnered with PwC as an advisory company and consulting company to help us developing on the Stellar network and in partnership and collaboration with the Stellar Development Foundation. So we're very excited for that. But to your question around why stablecoins, it's another way to move money on a blockchain. And we look at blockchain as an alternative payment rail. And we're very interested to see what use cases are going to manifest from that and what customers are going to be most interested in.
So this is a case study of sorts. And so, Kurt, what was it? What went down? What was the program? Where did you take this thing?
Well, I think the primary objective was to demonstrate the promise of blockchain in a trusted bank-grade environment. So we've been talking about blockchain for years, and we're at a point now where it's not about innovation anymore. It's about practical application in a rigorous, highly regulated environment where we're taking advantage of the tooling on-chain, in this case on the Stellar network, to demonstrate that the promise of programmable money actually yields benefits for not only the institution, but the customers that they serve. And so that's a mix of not only, again, being able to move out of an environment where you're just doing the testing and demonstration of the technology, but actually looking at how this needs to integrate back into an environment that oftentimes has systems that have been around for 10, 20, 30, 50 years. You're changing process. You're changing the way people have to work around this asset. And in many cases, you're also actually rewiring the ecosystem of companies that do business with each other. So it's a huge lift. It's a huge paradigm shift from the enterprise mindset of building systems, building products, building a business around this new offering, this financial product. It's a huge shift for not even just one company, but for an entire industry.
And you mentioned that, one of the critical words here, the regulation, where it's been, where it is now, what's going to happen. That is also a big piece of that dialogue. Mike, if I can get back to you a little bit, you did mention that, Gunjan's made some comments on it. How does this project and what moves forward, how does that align with the previous thinking at US Bank?
Sure. Innovation is one thing, but responsible innovation is the most important thing. So as we've been evaluating this, out of the box, stablecoins provide faster, cheaper, 24/7. And that's true out of the box. But for bank customers, we have to think about other protections around know your customers, the ability to online transactions, the ability to call back transactions. And one of the great things about the Stellar platform, as we did some more research and development on it, was learning that they have the ability at their base operating layer to freeze assets into online transactions. Often you might write that into the business logic in itself, but in this instance, you could do it at the core blockchain layer. So that was very interesting to us. But beyond that, it's thinking about what compliance rules, what business rules you can build into this program, this new programmable money, and how we can potentially deliver that safely, securely, and reliable, which is, when you go back to Gunjan's presentation earlier Monday morning, those are the three words used to describe the future of payments, and really borrowing them here that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to do that on blockchain with this use case.
And to bring your voice into this, Jose, why engage Stellar? Why have you be a part of this group, of this test team?
So if you look at the blockchain landscape, there is a very vibrant ecosystem of blockchains out there. You can do open source and permissionless. You can do permission. You have blockchains building payments and payments companies building blockchains. There is a wide variety of options that if you're an institution trying to deploy on a blockchain, you can choose from. One of the reasons that I think that we are really a good tool for that job is we've been payments and financial services from the very beginning. There are very few blockchains that were designed, and very, very few is kind of a nice way of saying we are the only one that I know that was designed from the get-go for financial services. The mission of the foundation from the first day is access to everyday financial services. We will build from the ground for payments, the functionality that Mike was talking about, our consensus mechanism, the speed, the privacy, all those things were very much thought with the payments first mindset. And then the other aspect is we've been around for a long time. So there are the Stellar blockchain has been around for 11 years. We have 99.99% uptime for the last 10 years, which is when you are doing mission critical systems and when you're doing financial services and you're moving consumers money, we need to make sure that your blockchain is going to be there. So we are very honored to have the confidence of US Bank and the partners at PwC, and we take that confidence and that trust very, very seriously.
Well, thank you for bringing those two words up, because confidence and trust are also two thematics that we've had as we've gone through this series. And if you each could give me a little bit of insight of, why you said, hey, yeah, we need that because of what they've done. Everyone talks about the trust of US Bank. Obviously, PwC carries with it a lot of great credentials. Tell me a little bit, what do you feel was good about the collaboration or the coming collaboration as you go through this between the three groups? Kurt, let's start with you.
I think the bank took a fantastic approach. It continues to take a fantastic approach about bringing not only the product-facing, customer-facing teams, the innovation teams to the table, but also the enabling functions that are responsible for, to use Jose's words, protecting the customer's money and making sure that they're engaging with the ecosystem in the right way. And we come in always with a critical lens of what can be done better in terms of making sure that those protections are brought front and center to a product, to a technology. And I think the combination of the bank's rigor of engagement plus the robust and very intentional focus at the foundation around the needs of an enterprise allowed for this collaboration to go quite well. I think the Stellar network is very unique in that they embrace the needs of a highly regulated entity. Blockchain, of course, is a prolific innovation ecosystem. But for us to really meet where an enterprise is in terms of how they operate as a regulated entity, it requires changes to some of the tooling that's native to the network. And so that collaboration has been really exciting to be able to kind of meld the world of innovation plus, the experience and the prowess of an institution that's been around for decades.
Sure. US Bank announced 2 weeks ago that we're standing up a digital assets and money movement business line within our organization. Stellar Development Foundation was an excellent partner. We were very interested in the platform for the low-cost transactions that it made available. Other institutions like Franklin Templeton, Wisdom Tree have also built on top of Stellar. And when it came down to it, when we came across technical items that we needed solved, Stellar was there to help us with that. And we did come across one item that we hope to continue to work on with Stellar in future phases, which was around privacy. And one of the things, a U.S. bank would expect when we deliver a product to market will be to maintain the privacy of some of the balances on a blockchain. And now, Jose might have some perspective on that as well.
Yeah, if I may add to that, when you're in a blockchain foundation, when you're on the Stellar side, we do a lot of the work of maintaining the code base for Stellar. So our folks love to discuss, we love to geek out about liveness and consistency and privacy and cryptography and tens of thousands of lines of C++ code that maintains the blockchain. In the end, for the users, that will not matter. And I think that if it's something that we learned during the fintech wars is that we need to abstract that complexity and we need to hit mass distribution. And users will interact with these technologies in the platforms where they are already now. And they are at US Bank now. They are at the banks. And it's incredibly important in these early adoption stages. Maybe not so early. If you look, there are probably 15% of Americans have already interacted with digital assets and stablecoins in some way. But at this stage, when you're going to hit mainstream adoption, being able to find a forward-looking institution who's taking a bold at the same time that is responsible approach and making this available for folks who don't want to discuss elliptic curve cryptography with me. So they want to be able to move money fast in the platform where they are and in the experiences that they are comfortable with. So I think that's where the magic happens, when you can combine the hardcore crypto knowledge that you need to probably engage with the experts for that, with the platforms that consumers are using on where they want to keep going.
We've talked quite a bit already now about the why behind this and the who, but getting a little bit more to the what. What benefits are you exploring that for this at the enterprise level?
So the narrative around stablecoins has been faster, cheaper, 24/7. And I know I said that earlier, but if that plays out to be true, and starting with cash and starting with fiat is a organic place to start, particularly when you're a company like US Bank, who services the payment industry and who has been servicing the payment industry for decades. And we often see that as the first connection point with our customer base. But if that turns out to be true, that it can move that quickly, that it can move internationally, you can extend that to other asset classes. So Kurt mentioned a second ago tokenized assets, and we're also doing some additional research around tokenized assets, where if you could take the value proposition of moving quickly, moving 24/7, and moving it very efficiently, you can apply that to all sorts of other asset classes that come along with it. So we're excited to see where that research goes for us as well. Yeah.
Got anything you want to add on that from the way you see it?
I think that we're at a moment in which we have already proven. So stablecoins have proof of existence, right? So there are billions of stablecoins out there. I think the points that Mike said on speed and cost are very, very appropriate for this. I think that we're moving now to the next level of, we need to add the trimmings. So there is a lot to a payment that goes beyond a transaction. So the fundamental functionality of let's move value from a wallet to a wallet, that is solved. That works. You can do it. Now we need to make it work for the people who are saying, well, my problem is that I need to have $10 million that need to arrive in Indonesia in the next 10 minutes, and it's a Saturday at 5 p.m. So those are the rails and we need to build on that the privacy preserving features. We need to build the credit mechanism. We need to build something that just goes beyond the cost, because the cost is there. You can run transactions on the Stellar network at $0.0001 per transaction. It will not matter if you make it 0.0001. So it is already basically free, and it's already tens of times cheaper than an ACH transaction. There is no cost of payments. Let's imagine that there is no cost of payments. What do we do with that? And the use cases, some of them are going to be very plain vanilla existing use cases today that you just can do faster and at scale. It's for corporate treasurers who want to deploy treasury to foreign subsidiaries. It's for a business that want to pay other businesses. And then there are going to be arcane cases that, quite frankly, we don't know about. I can put a few of them on the table that are going to happen. Is, as an industry in payments, we have never been able to do efficiently sub $1 payments. If you're going to do a payment that is less than $1, it costs you probably 15%. If you can have basically free payments, then you start to think about stuff like, hey, I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to pay by the minute. You can do streaming payments. You can, your car can pay by the mile on a toll road. There are things that we're not there yet, and I don't want to be starry-eyed, because I think there's plenty of work to do on migrating the existing use cases on chain. But that's the promise of the technology. Is let's think of, we have been all thinking from a scarcity mindset in terms of the cost of payment. If you remove that and you start to think with an abundance mindset, where do you go next?